Good morning. Happy Wednesday, everybody. So, today we are going to continue our lovely little chat about little things that can be put on your plate or possibly be taken off your plate to help you on your journey to success in reaching those health and wellness goals. So, first and foremost, I did want to give you guys a quick sneak peek of what's coming up next week in my group coaching. We are going to be prepping for a fuel cycle. And so starting October 1st, we'll be doing a fuel cycle in my group coaching. So if you are interested in fuel cycles, if it's something that you feel like you have wanted to do in the past or you've tried to do in the past, and you haven't been successful at that, or you're even looking at me going, what is a fuel cycle? I am giving you guys the opportunity to join me in my group next week completely free to see what all of that is about and see if it's something that you might be interested in. Because the first week in October, that's what we will be doing, is that fuel cycle all together. And I thoroughly believe that it is a little bit easier to accomplish when you have a community with you where you guys can post ideas on what you're consuming, go over menu ideas, and just have accountability and support when those tricky times come up or we're eating the same type of fuel all day long. So if you're having questions about that, just let me know, DM me, and I can give you a little bit more information on that. Moving into October, though, we're going to be talking about intentions versus actions. We're also going to be talking about planning your plan B or your emergency. You know, how many times do we have things that we feel like, oh, we're going to get this done and it's going to go just like this, and then something comes in and then 3 weeks later we're finally trying to get back on track again. And so sometimes it's about planning those emergencies. We're also going to talk about hydration in the month of October in my group coaching, and we're going to have a no sweet cheat week for Halloween to kind of keep you guys accountable, not to be tempted by all the sugar and everything that's kind of floating around in the offices and on your counters and all of those different types of things, because 'tis the season, right? We are coming into that fall holiday season. I know nobody wants to hear it, like it's still 90 degrees out where I'm at, but it is coming, and so this is a great way to kind of prep for that. So again, if you're interested, let me know. If not, no worries. I am here for you guys on Wednesdays, and today we're actually going to talk about nutrition facts. So it's so funny because when we talk about nutrition facts, we all know that, ooh, it's kind of screechy on my little clipboard there. So we know that these are nutrition facts. We see these all the time when we go to consume something or buy something. But I think it's interesting because I've never realized that they're actually called nutrition facts. I've always just said it's the label. It's your nutrition label. And I think that facts kind of is an interesting word that they choose there, because I don't feel like it's always as black and white as it should be. I think sometimes marketing employees get into it. I think sometimes it becomes sometimes confusing on, well, what does this mean and how much is that and how does that equate into my percentages? All of these things that can kind of trip us up a little bit. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is the nutrition facts or labels that are on things, okay? And so as you guys have probably noticed, the things that come from the Lord, from the ground, that are not touched by man, do not have nutrition facts on them. And so it's interesting because those are the things that I guess they think that we don't really need to know about because they're naturally healthy because they came from the Lord. But with that, know that those things are better than anything that is processed for us in our body. And so if this is a new concept to you, look back to last week where we talked about food being medicine and fuel. We talked about vitamins and minerals and things of that nature that we're getting from your food. And we'll talk a little bit about that today when we talk about, your actual nutrients that you're getting from the facts on the food. Okay, so the first thing that you're always going to see in the nutrition facts and the nutrition label is the serving. Okay, and so this can be kind of tricky. Yeah, so I feel like this is where they kind of get us sometimes, because we look at something and we go, oh, it only has this many calories in it. But a lot of times they make it very difficult for you to be able to identify what that is when you use it. So for example, ice cream, right? So when we buy this ice cream, a lot of times we go, okay, well, this is a serving size. Like, it's not a half gallon. It's not a gallon, right? So this is a serving size. No, actually, this is 3 servings, okay? And then they make the serving size be 2/3 of a cup. I mean, so you have to get out your 2/3 of a cup measure. Oh, wait, they don't make a 2/3 of a cup measure, right? So then you have to do math, and you have to be like, that means it's 2/3 of a cup to measure out what would be a serving size. And then from that, I don't honestly believe that there's 2/3 of a cups 3 times in this container. They say that there is, and so there must be, but it's very difficult to measure. I don't know if you guys are like me, but it's one of those things that it's like, okay, well, if I kind of divide this into thirds, then is that the same? But in all actuality, it's kind of not, because it's wider at the top and it's smaller at the bottom. And so they just don't make it easy, okay? Another example that I kind of have here is popcorn. And so with the popcorn, this is a little bit healthier choice because of the ingredient list on it, right? Okay, so it has less ingredients, which naturally is indicative to be a little bit healthier because it's less processed, less things added to it. And so you think, okay, this is organic popcorn. This is pretty good. This is legit, right? But when we look at it, we go, okay, there's only 2.5 grams of fat and only 120 calories. Hey, this is a great option. This is a light, easy, nice option, right? It's got a good amount of fiber in it. It's got 4 grams of fiber in it, for its 21 carbs, like all these kinds of things that we kind of throw around a little bit. But the serving size is 2 tablespoons of unpopped popcorn. Okay, so this comes in bags, right? It comes in bags, 3 bags in this box. So am I supposed to take the popcorn out of the bag that you gave me to be able to pop the popcorn and pull out 2 tablespoons and then only pop that? Because that doesn't work in my microwave. So then how do you really gauge how much 2 tablespoons of unpopped popcorn is? It's very difficult. I mean, do you take regular popcorn that's not been popped and put 2 tablespoons and then actually count out 2 tablespoons and see how much that would be? And then count your kernels in correlation to that? I mean, this makes it kind of difficult. So, do know that as much as they want to call these nutrition facts, these facts can sometimes be very difficult to interpret. And so I think that serving size is one of those things that gets everybody sometimes if you aren't really paying attention. And then as we kind of go down the nutrition label a little bit more, we get into what's called the nutrients. Okay, so all of this further down is nutrients. And so it's always going to start with fat. Okay, and so it's going to do fat, and then it's going to tell you different types of fat. Okay, and how these are all divided out. So of the total fat, how much of that is trans fat, how much of that is saturated fat. If it happened to have unsaturated fat, sometimes they even break it down even further to monosaturated fats. We're going to go over all of this next week. So stay tuned for your fat facts next week. Okay. So I have drawn a little box around a few of these items though, okay? And so these are our fats and then the different types, the cholesterol and the sodium. So these here we want to be mindful of. These are the ones that we want to make sure that we don't have an exorbitant amount of, because they're gonna add up really quickly, okay? And so the reason why I say that is because when we talk about calories, we used to have something on the nutrition label, I don't know if you guys can remember it, but it used to say calories from fat. It does not say that anymore. So that has been something that has been removed from our lovely nutrition labels recently. But what they are giving now is they're giving total sugars and added sugars, which I think is a really great thing to know. Of these sugars, how much are man-made versus how much are, processed in and put in. versus, things that just naturally occurring, with sugar and things of that nature. So that's a good thing to know, when we talk about like raisins, for example, and the proportion size on those are crazy low too, right? But they naturally have a lot of sugars in them because they're grapes, right? They don't have added sugars in them a lot of times. But when you look at other dried fruit, let's say like cranberries, you can know, is this sugar coming from the cranberry or is it coming from added sugars that they put in, okay? So that's a good thing to know. But when I circle back around to calories from fat, the reason why I bring that up is because I know I've talked about this before, so if you guys have been watching, this is just like a good foundation for you, knowing how many calories per gram are in different types of foods. So when we talk about a protein or when we talk about a carb, they usually run somewhere between 4 to 5 calories per gram. When we talk about fat, it's about 9. So naturally, an item that has more fat in it is going to have more calories in it because it has more calories per gram. That's just the way it was designed, it was created. And so that's why that used to be on the nutrition labels, and why it's not now, not quite sure. Good morning, Melissa. But with that, do know that if you have something that is high in fat, it's naturally just going to be higher in calories because it has more calories per gram with it being high in fat, okay? And so kind of keep mindful of that. We'll talk more about fat next week, I promise. So come back for that. But as we kind of go down in this little box that we talked about, these things being not so great. So again, those are fat, cholesterol, and sodium. So we want these things to be low, okay? So when we talk about low, well, what is low? And then you see over here on this side, you see, okay, well, they have numbers per serving, but then over here, there's percentages. Well, what is that? And it's got a DV. What does DV stand for, right? DV is daily value, okay? And so the daily value of these things is going to give you a percentage based off of a 2,000 calorie diet. And, most of us as females that are watching aren't going to be eating as much as 2,000 calories. Okay, so know that these are kind of skewed on you because you might not be eating as much as what they say, this is based off of. Which again makes it tricky, right, to get. So if the percentage is, let's say, 5 or lower, we know that that item is low. It's low in your daily percent value. If that item is 20% or more, we know that that's high in your daily value, okay? So you're wanting to look for the things that are lower in that box that I was just talking about. So fat, sodium, cholesterol, we want those to be a little bit lower because those are the things that are going to either trigger bloat, that are going to be harder for our body to process through, things of that nature. And so do know that as we move down, we talk a little bit more about, carbs, sugars, proteins, and then we go into like the vitamin and mineral section. Okay. So again, like we talked about last week, we want to make sure that these vitamins and minerals are coming naturally from food sources rather than being added in to those food sources, which is what's happening more often than not when you are eating something that's processed. Okay. And then I did want to talk about too, just ingredients in general. So when you guys look at things, I've been recently working with my kiddos at school about things that are in the things that they consume a lot. And so I've been having people bring in packages and boxes, and that's why I have a lot of these things here. But let's say like cottage cheese, okay? So it only has cultured skim milk, cream, and salt, okay? We know how to pronounce all the things in this, and we know that all the things in this are real, right? Okay? When we take some of the things that I feel like I see a lot of the kids with, like Pop-Tarts, right? So the first ingredient in this is enriched flour. Okay, so I know we've talked about this before, but enriched means that they've processed that wheat and they've taken out the hard shell on the outside that has all the bran and has all the ingredients that are naturally nutrient to that. They've taken that out to make it be more palatable, to be more something that we enjoy to eat texture-wise. And then what they do is they artificially enrich that flour back. Okay, so anytime that it says enriched, you always like, oh, but it's enriched. That must mean great. Like, why are we looking for whole grain everything? Like, enriched means that it's better. It's better than, you know, a natural staining. Well, in all actuality, it's not. They've just artificially fortified that wheat is what they've done. So the first ingredient is enriched flour, and then it goes in and it tells you what they've put in this. So they put in wheat flour, niacin, reduced iron, vitamin B1, thiamine, vitamin B2, riboflavin, folic acid. Okay, so they had to put all that back into the wheat because in some ways there was already that into the wheat that they pulled out to make it be a different substance. Okay, so the first ingredient, know this, is always the most ingredient. So the most of something is always listed first. Okay, so it's got enriched wheat flour as its main ingredient. Okay, then after that, its second ingredient is sugar. Gee, go figure, right? Okay, and so we're not going to get into all of the crazy names for sugar. That would be a whole different section as well. But as we keep going, we have soybean and palm oil. Then we have corn syrup, dextro, high fructose corn syrup, bleached wheat flour. That's great. I mean, I love to eat bleached things, right? And then it goes into, it contains 2% or less of molasses, salt, leavening, cinnamon, wheat starch, like we didn't have enough wheat already, gelatin, caramel color, that sounds tasty, and soy lecithin, okay? And so what's great about nutrition labels, not that all of these things in them are great, but they do tell you, okay? And so if it's something that you can't pronounce, a lot of times it means that, unfortunately, we probably shouldn't be consuming it, okay? And the more ingredients that you have in it, the more likelihood that it's going to be something that is not as easy for our body to process through, unfortunately. So I do love one of the new things that they do on Nutrition Facts, though, and it does have an allergy, you know, label on the bottom of it. It's always going to be bold, and it's always going to be underneath the ingredients, okay? So do know this, if you have, you know, friends that have allergies, if you have, I know if you guys probably have allergies, you already know this, but if you have somebody that's kind of sensitive to certain things, this is a good thing to remember. And so instead of having to pick it up and go, oh, does it have eggs in it? Oh, does it have wheat in it? Oh, does it have dairy in it? Know that what you can do is you can look down at the very bottom underneath the ingredient list, and it does say contains wheat and soy ingredients. Or another thing will say was manufactured in a place that also had X, Y, or Z in it. You know, so it'll have the most common allergens on that, and they are down in bold to make it easier for you to spot it. Okay, and so I do think that that's a good benefit. Do also know with nutrition labels and nutrition facts that some of this stuff can be a little bit tricky. And so if you have the Analyzer app for Trim Healthy Mama, if that's what a program that you are doing and utilizing, that is a free download, and that will give you a good amount of resources on things that are in the nutrition labels that you might be wondering, tapioca fiber, is that right? Corn fiber, is that right? All of the things that you think, hey, is this on plan or is it not on plan? So I don't know how many of you guys know Coach Fondy, but she has always given a really good tip in regards to things being on plan versus not on plan. So what she says is 3 strikes you're out, and I love it. So what she says is if it has 3 not on plan ingredients, she marks it out. It's automatically not on plan, okay? Because sometimes we have things that are not necessarily great for us, but maybe they're lower down on the ingredient list. So that means that there's not very much of them in the actual thing that we're getting. And so maybe it's a quick fix, maybe it's something that we have just in the car that's, you know, that plan B, that emergency that we have. And so it might not be perfect, but it could be a personal choice. And so another option, and I've linked this before and I'll link it back again, is Jessica Myers, one of our Trim Healthy Mama coaches, and she's the admin over all of Trim Healthy Mama. She does a great segment on describing what personal choices are and how you can define those. But another good way is by saying 3 strikes you're out. So if it has 3 not on plan ingredients in it, it's usually you're out. I kind of do a similar thing with like condiments, and so I do the rule of 3. So if a condiment per serving has more than 3 grams of fat, 3 grams of sugar, I would say that it is something that's not going to be utilized by me, because how often do, for condiments, we use more than what a serving size usually is, because usually they say a serving size is about a tablespoon. And I don't know about you guys, but like I usually use more than a tablespoon of like dressing. I usually use more than a tablespoon of most of my condiments when I use them. And so that rule of 3 for me has kind of helped me keep in line with making sure that I don't go over with fuel stacking and things of that nature. So that in a nutshell is nutrition facts. I hope that they have become a little bit more factual and not so crazy hard to understand. Maybe you learned something new today. If I didn't go over something that you'd like to say about nutrition facts or nutrition labels, let me know in the comments below. And then also too, if you guys are interested in the fuel cycle and joining the group for free, let me know about that as well, and I can hook you up. So we'll be talking all about fats next week, so stay tuned for that. And I hope you guys have a blessed and encouraging rest of your week. I will see you guys then. Bye.